Hi everybody. I'm going to give you the answers to your writing homework in your laws book. That's your writing book, pages 114 and 115. Let me share the screen with you. Have your books in front of you. Hopefully you all did your homework, and that's what we're going to do now. We're just checking your homework, okay? Let me share the screen. Here we go. Okay. On page 114, we did the first three sentences when I assigned it. So I'm going to give you the answers to from number 4 to number 12. In this exercise, you were supposed to read the sentence. These are all complex sentences. You were supposed to put one line under the independent clause. That's the part of the sentence that can be a sentence in itself. You were supposed to put 2 lines under the dependent clause. That's the part of the sentence that needs other words for it to become a complete sentence. And then you were to circle the subordinator. So that's the word that connects them. Okay, let's go to number 4. I really wish there was a way I could make marks here, but I'm looking and I just don't see how I can do that. So hopefully you can just follow along with me. So number 4, after you have received a helpful response, send a follow-up email to thank the professor. And I believe you were supposed to fix the punctuation as well. So we have the 2 parts, which is after you have received a helpful response, and the second part, send a follow-up email to thank the professor. You need to put 1 line under the independent clause, the one that is a sentence in itself. So when we look at this, we can see that send a follow-up email to thank the professor is the independent clause. So you should have 1 line beginning with send and ending with professor. The next part, which you have left, after you have received a helpful response, that is the dependent clause. That is not a sentence in itself. So you need to put 2 lines beginning with after to response, okay? And the subordinator is the word after. If you remember when I gave you the directions to this exercise, I said it might be helpful for you to find the subordinator first. And that word always begins the dependent part of the sentence. So if you looked for the subordinator first, you would have circled after, and you would automatically have known that this would be the dependent part after you have received a helpful response. In this sentence, you need a comma after response, because remember that if your complex sentence begins with a subordinator, then you need a comma separating 2 parts of the sentence, okay? Let's look at number 5. Check your school email regularly since your instructors may send out important notices. Let's try the way I suggested. If you look for the subordinator first, and if you needed help from the page before, I said look at the page before, it will help you with the words. Here is the subordinator, it's the word since, so that should be circled. And remember that this word will begin the dependent part. Since your instructors may send out important notices, that's the dependent part. So starting with the word since, you need 2 lines under that, starting with since, ending with notices. Check your school email regularly. That's an independent clause that can be a sentence by itself. So you would put just 1 line under it. There are no commas here because the subordinator is in the middle of the sentence, okay? Number 6, whenever you see the word test in the subject line of an email, you had better pay attention. Again, if you look for the subordinator, that would be the word whenever, so you would circle that, and automatically now we know that this introduces the dependent clause. So whenever you see the word test in the subject line of an email, we need 2 lines under that because that's the dependent clause. We need a comma after email because this begins with a subordinator. You had better pay attention is your independent clause, so you need 2 lines beginning with you and ending with attention. Okay? Number 7. Do not be absent on the day of a test unless you have received permission from your instructor. Look for the subordinator. That's the word unless. That means these words that come after it are the dependent clause. So unless you have received permission from your instructor, gets 2 lines under it. The rest of the sentence, do not be absent on the day of a test, is a sentence in itself. That's an independent clause. You have 1 line under here, okay? I don't remember if I told you, going back to number 6, I don't remember if I told you as part of the answer, you need a comma after email because this sentence begins with the dependent clause, the subordinator. Okay, going back here now, number 8. Number 8, the students were silent as the professor handed out their test. Where is the subordinator? It's the word as. So that gets circled. The words that come after it, as, including as the professor handed out their test, is the dependent clause that has 2 lines under it. And the students were silent has 1 line. That's the independent clause. Number 9, the students worked on the test problems until the teacher told them to stop. The subordinator is the word until, so that should be circled. And then until the teacher told them to stop is the dependent clause. There should be 2 lines under it. And here, what's left, the students worked on the test problems, is the independent clause. There is 1 line under that. Number 10, as soon as the instructor told them to stop writing, they put down their pencils. Look for the subordinator. As soon as should be circled. As soon as the instructor told them to stop writing, that is the dependent clause beginning with the subordinator. There should be 2 lines under it. They put down their pencils. This is the independent clause. There should be 1 line after it. And because this sentence begins with the subordinator, there is a comma after the word writing to separate the dependent clause from the independent clause. Number 11, after the teacher collected the tests, she dismissed the class. Let's look for the subordinator. It's the word after, so that gets circled. The words that come after it, after the teacher collected the tests, right here. This is the dependent clause. She dismissed the class. This is a sentence in itself. This is the independent clause. There is 1 line under she dismissed the class. There are 2 lines after the teacher collected the tests. There is a comma after the word tests because the sentence begins with the dependent clause. And the last one, number 12. Before she left, she promised to post their test scores in the grade book of their course website. Let's look for the subordinator. It's the word before. We're going to circle that. Before she left, only these 3 words. This is the dependent clause. And look at this is the independent clause. It's long, I know, and this is short, but you'll read this and see that this is a sentence in itself. She promised to post their test scores in the grade book of their course website. 1 line beginning with she, ending with website. Independent clause. 2 lines beginning with before, ending with left. That's the dependent clause. The word before is circled because it is the subordinator, and there is a comma after the word left, okay, because it begins with the dependent clause. So those are the answers on page 114. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, we're gonna, woohoo! It's dancing. All right. Okay. The next homework you had was matching the column A with column B. So the first one was done for you. We did that when I showed you the exercise the other day. For number 2, okay, All right, so the letter that you should have for number 2 is the letter F right here. F. F matches number 2. Begin the process by deciding what to wear the next day before you go to bed at night. Okay? All of the ones on this side are the dependent clause, and they all begin with subordinator. See, as soon as, unless, if, then, because, before. And these are all the independent clauses. If you were to read each one of these without these, they're still sentences. All right, so number 2, F, right here. Number 3 is A. Then get out of bed in the morning instead of sleeping an extra 5 or 10 minutes as soon as your alarm clock rings. Number 3 is A. There should be an A here. Number 4 is E. You should keep your alarm as far from your bed as possible because it will force you to get up and stay up. Letter E goes in number 4. Number 5 is D. Now, this is the only one that really needs to begin with the dependent clause. So D goes in number 5, and it reads like this. Then when you are in the shower, stick to a 2-minute limit to save not only water, but also time. Okay, so D goes in number 5. And number 6, what's left? B. B goes in 6. The final step requires you to bring your breakfast to class as soon as your alarm. Unless your professor has rules against food in the classroom. Okay? B goes in 6. So your answers are number 1, C, number 2, F, number 3, A, number 4, E, number 5, D, and number 6, B. The rest of the homework I assigned that day was to write complex sentences into Canvas, and so far, maybe half of you have done that. So if you have not finished it, please finish that, okay? And then I'll correct them and send them back to you. Okay, my next video is going to be from the grammar book, and that is actually going to be the last teaching video. I will probably make a couple other little videos, but that will be the last teaching video, okay, in your grammar book. All right, thank you, everybody. You'll see me in the next video. Okay.